In September of 2007, the Federal Communications Commission held a hearing regarding media ownership in Chicago. The purpose of the hearing was to fully involve the public in the process of the media ownership review that the Commission is currently conducting. It was held at Rainbow Push headquarters on Chicago's South Side, was open to the public, and the format allowed members of the public to participate via open microphone.
Over the last 25 years, the media have been tending toward increasing concentration of ownership. More and more media companies are being owned by fewer and fewer media owners. The numbers have shrunk from about 50 around 1980 or so to about 7 or so now. In 2002 and 2003, the FCC had publicly admitted that they were going to review their current media ownership rules, which a lot of people interpreted to mean they were practically going to scrap them. It would have been to the point where a single company could have owned most, if not all, of the media in a single community, in communities across the United States. You think the media concentration is bad now, it would have been a whole lot worse. That didn't happen, though, precisely because people found out about it before it happened. And even though the media themselves weren't going to talk about this because they stood to have a vested interest in the outcome, they were going to cash in big on these rule changes that they were anticipating. Nonetheless, it fell upon grassroots activists and initiatives like those I've been involved with to raise that hue and cry, to spread the fires of social change, and to tell people about what was going to happen in the hopes of trying to stop it. And it worked. The FCC has been forced to review the docket of media ownership, and they've held a series of hearings across the United States. They've promised to hold 6 hearings. 4 have been held in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Tampa, Florida. The 5th one happened to be held in Chicago. The feedback the FCC has been hearing could be grouped basically in either of 2 camps. There is those who are basically part of the media apparatus of the major media companies and their allies, who basically are saying everything is going fine, look how great things are, and you should implement these changes. And then there's practically everyone else in the world and history who are basically saying this is utterly disastrous, and you shouldn't, at the very least, you should keep these changes. If changes to policy should be made, they should be to reduce concentration of ownership, not increase it. And all signs from the FCC have been that they're poised to increase concentration. The FCC had focused this hearing in Chicago specifically toward the issue of minority ownership and minority concerns. Chicago, it turns out, has one of the lowest levels of minority ownership among communities of its size and of its diversity. The national media policy group Free Press actually conducted research about this and found that ethnic minorities comprise about 2/3 of the population of the city of Chicago, but yet own maybe 5% of the city's full power TV stations and radio stations of a commercial variety. And yet, despite the fact that it owns half the population, women just own about 6% of the city's radio and TV stations. And the reason for that is very clear, or a big reason for that. It has to do with concentration of media ownership. With fewer companies owning more media outlets, that means that the ownership there tends to skew toward dominant sectors. They're predominantly white, predominantly male, predominantly wealthier communities, rather than predominantly ethnic, predominantly poor, predominantly women and ethnic minorities. Since this is a public hearing, anyone can attend. And since the corporate media themselves have a vested interest in the outcome, they want to be sure that their concerns are on the record. WGN had sent maybe at least 9 or so secretarial staff to basically wait in line. And after a time, you would see them vanish one by one to be replaced by either big media lobbyists or prominent media personalities, in the case of WGN, to basically give whatever testimony that someone wrote on their behalf to read aloud. But the WGN people who were there that give testimony, in fact, a lot of people from other media outlets like CBS and Clear Channel and these folks were giving basically listless testimony. They were practically half asleep. They didn't seem excited at all. It was like they were probably paid to be there. They were probably reading words they didn't write. They were probably got orders from on high to basically say, you take the day off from work to be there and Don't talk with anyone. Don't give any interviews. Don't tell anything about what you might think or not think about this, because your responsibility is to get things on the record and nothing else. I think we had a great day on September 20th, 2007. Everything we set out to do for the hearing, we did. And it turns out everything we had hoped to have happen, happened. Democracy is more than what you do in a voting booth on a Tuesday in November. It is what you do with your hands and with your heart and with your head every day, all year long. The fact that we had been working on this hearing for a long time, every day, nonstop, was a big testament to why it all came together successfully on a single day, on a Thursday in September 2007 in Chicago.